catching up here. As always, this time of year is bittersweet time. We're certainly excited for the start of the regular season next week, especially coming off Super Bowl victory. Excited to lower that Super Bowl championship banner in front of our home fans. Should be an exciting night, and certainly be an amazing game. And the Detroit Lions will certainly come here ready to play. All the respect in the world for them. So it's going to be an exciting night next Thursday. We're looking forward to that. On one end, we're super excited to release our 53-man roster, and we have some practice squad additions that we've made, and we'll probably have a couple as the days go on to add to that list. But it's always tough when you have to say goodbye to some players that have been here, sometimes for years, sometimes since the spring. But overall, just can't thank all those players enough for their hard work during this off season and training camp, and thank all the coaches for the great job they do, and certainly my staff for all the extra hours they put in, especially this time of year. It's never easy, and sometimes these roster compositions are tough deals, but our guys are the best at what they do, and again, can't thank them enough. So with that, I'll open it up and take some questions.
Start first with Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Brett, how you doing today?
Good, Adam. Good.
Good. Hey, I like the racing helmets on your desk behind you, by the way.
Yeah, can't see them, but wanted to show them off. But I'll get to it one day.
All right. Hey, just wondering what your communication has been, if any, with Chris recently and his people, and you expecting him to be here in time to play against the Lions?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll have a second question. I'm sorry, Brad. I'll have a second question as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, certainly hopeful for that. We have been in communication, and actually just the last 2 days, we've been in more communication. So we're going to continue to press on and work hard, and a lot of respect on both sides of this thing. And I mean, it's been obviously well stated how we feel about Chris, and he feels the same way. So again, we're just going to keep working on this thing, and we're looking forward to next Thursday, and hopefully he's in the lineup and he's ready to go.
Okay. The two new guys, Farrell and Rush, what did you like about them? And particularly with Farrell, do you see him as being more than a first and second down player?
Well, we hope so. I mean, that's always, the goal and the plan for anytime you add someone on the defensive line, that they can be a complete player. But I mean, right off the bat, just a bigger body. I mean, that was one of the things that, we put an emphasis on. I mean, he's 6'4" and change, and, he's just a bigger, longer body. And as you guys know, Steve, he likes that prototype. We certainly do as well. Liked him coming out of college. That thing kind of picked up late yesterday, and worked through it pretty quick, actually, because that was, every time you make cuts in your mind, you have some roster management and some games you want to play, and then you're kind of trying to project practice squads and who'll get claimed and who won't. And kind of going into this thing, we were looking for a bigger, longer run playing defensive end. So we had one of those on the tackle, and we were looking for an athletic corner that has size, length, and speed. And so just in the last, 2 days here, we're able to get two of those guys, a longer DT and, an athletic corner that fits the measurables we're looking for. And certainly like both those players coming out and had, the tape just seemed like we watched it yesterday on Rush. And then the DT, I mean, he just came out last year, was a 4th round pick last year. So again, two young guys that we get to add to our roster, along with the draft picks. I think all of them, earned their way on the roster this year, as well as one undrafted free agent.
Thanks. And one last thing for me, Kadarius, Toney, and L'Jarius Sneed, are they candidates to go on IR now, or are they going to be on the 53? And if so, do you expect them to play against Detroit?
They'll be on the 53. And again, I don't want to speak for the coaches or for Rick, but they have a good chance to be where they need to be week 1, and we'll see. And again, I'll let Rick make those decisions. Him in conjunction with the players, they have a great relationship with all of our players, but especially those two. And credit to Kadarius and to LJ and Turk Wharton. I mean, really all the guys, but you think about Kadarius and LJ and Turk Wharton right off the bat. Just give them so much credit, and the work Rick and Julie and Glove and Evan, that Tiff, the whole staff down there. Those guys have worked their tails off around the clock to put themselves in a position to play Thursday, and I think that they certainly have a chance, and we'll see how it goes.
Let's go next to Sam McDowell. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Brad, I have a couple things. Brett, wondered on the 7 wide receivers. First of all, obviously it's an unusual number since you've been here. Can you just explain how you're going to try and get value out of all 7 guys?
Well, I mean, we have different types of receivers, and whether they are guys like Richie James that handle a bunch of stuff with the return game. Then you have Ross as a size guy. We lost Jody. And that was someone Coach always had packages in for and short yards and red zone. But I don't think there's ever a shortcoming of creativity with our coaches. And we have a talented, deep receiving core. They're all different in their ways. And coaches does a great job of trying to maximize what they can do and implementing packages for guys. And I think that's, we'll have a core group of guys that can handle every package and be involved in every package. And then we'll have a group of guys that these are kind of tailored and tweaked to what they can do, and they're going to highlight their skill set. And so I think having, those 7 receivers gives us a variety of different ways to attack a defense, and certainly trust our coaching staff to maximize their abilities, as they've done in the past with these different types of wideouts.
And to follow up on Chris, when you say communication, just want to clarify, do you mean progression towards a deal or progression towards just getting him to back in Kansas City without a deal? And do you foresee him potentially returning absent a deal?
Yeah, we've been in communications, and I think, I like to keep all of those communications, between us and them, just out of respect for the whole process. And, in the hopes that we can continue to work to get something done.
Go next to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hello, Brett. Thanks for the time.
Yeah.
As you're looking at the defensive line and the way it's structured right now, just what was the decision making and that sort of led you to make this trade with the Raiders to take on Farrell, and how much of Turk Wharton's progress gives you confidence if Chris isn't available for week 1 that you guys are set at that position?
Well, I think all that kind of comes into play. So we're working hard, and our hopes are to get Chris in here as soon as possible, and we continue to work through that. There'll be an acclimation phase for him. Turk, as I mentioned, has busted his tail to get back here. He's progressed, and it was great to see him come out of that last preseason game without any injuries. But those are still kind of things you're working through. And then you have a young guy in Kendrick Colburn that has got a chance to go out there and play and produce in some preseason games. But I mean, the reality of it is these rookies have played like a game, if that. I mean, you figure a couple quarters in 3 preseason games. I mean, it adds up to like a game. So just wanted to get some depth from an injury standpoint, from a depth standpoint. And also, again, I think we just from a, body type, we're trying to get a little bit bigger too. So I think it kind of fit a bunch of needs for us. And, that's why when we had the opportunity, we just ran with it yesterday.
Go next to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Right. Fans have been really transfixed on wide receiver Justin Ross and his story, and it pushed you guys to keep 7 receivers, which Andy has never done. You guys have never done. Just what do you project for him as far as if he is up each and every week? What type of receiver do you guys and your personnel room foresee that he could potentially be ceiling wise for you?
Yeah, I think first go back, credit to the kid and credit to our training staff. It, came here last year and had some injuries at Clemson, and then had kind of another injury that progressively got worse here last year. But our docs identified it right off the bat and shut him down. And we just really, put our trust in the kid and our training staff to get him to where he needs to be. Did that, came out here in OTAs, and it was a little bit of a feeling out process. And then I think like halfway through the OTAs, you can really start to see him get that confidence up and that, that belief up. And he's just progressively gotten better. And, with these young guys, as all of you guys know, I mean, there's so much verbiage in this playbook, and there's so much dialogue, and then there's so many, tweaks to every assignment in regards to where they align and how they look at coverage and how they alter routes. And so it's super complicated, and these guys over time start to figure it out. I think we'll see a big jump with Sky. And I think what you'll see from both Justin and Rasheed as the games go on, you'll see them probably have certain packages, and that will bleed into, hopefully they continue to grow and progress and produce on the field. And that will lead in to more utilization within the offense, and then graduating from a package player to an every down receiver. And I think the hopes with all these young guys are for them to just gradually make that transition. And I think we have a bunch of guys that are candidates to do this on this roster. And I think in the meantime, coach does a great job of finding what they do and putting them in positions to win, to gain their confidence and to help us on game day. And like I said, if they're able to do that and then naturally progress over the volume they can handle for full course of a season.
Go next to Seren Petro. Go ahead, Seren.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. The trading season, especially now with its one cut down, like how much was that different this year and trying to make deals since you didn't kind of have stages going on? Did it make it easier? Did it make it harder with all the activity that was happening all at once?
I would say it's a good question. Potentially like a little harder is my first gut reaction to that question, just because, and I joked with the guys yesterday, I mean, we usually are getting calls 2, 3, 4 days prior to the deadline or right after the second preseason game. Things start to heat up, and there was kind of a huge silence period there. And really until Vegas, called about, the potential of the DT. That was, I think, the first call we heard basically all preseason camp. So I think, a lot of that had to do, there were so many guys and none of them had been cut yet. And a lot of teams, sometimes they try to hide players and not play guys that play good the first week. And, teams know they can't make them on their roster. And I think teams were just waiting to see the actual list, to see what was real and what was just kind of hearsay through social media. So I think it probably made it a little bit harder to execute trades, put a little bit more stress on our staff last night. I mean, even though we picked 32nd on the waiver wire, we were here till 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, just making sure if we did have a chance, we put in for players, and it did work out for us. We got a corner that we liked. So I just think the communication was probably delayed, and it potentially could have, negated some maybe earlier trades. I don't know. I just know from my end, I can't speak for every team. Other than that Vegas call yesterday, it was really kind of quiet right through cut down.
Got time for a few more. We'll go down the line, starting with Matt Derrick. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Brett. 2 questions. First one, just kind of a housekeeping. You mentioned a couple of the guys who were injured earlier. Do you anticipate that there's anybody off the initial 53 that you're going to be needing to place on IR, like a Nick Jones, or how Leo Chanel's doing with that hip pointer?
Yeah, as we sit here today, I think we're good. I mean, listen, all this stuff can change. And again, I don't want to speak for Rick or the coaches, but I would say that there'll be no one that gets an injury designation within a day and there's a swap out. I think these guys are, good to go. It doesn't mean that they're 100% and will be active game day, but as we sit here today, I think these guys will all be practicing this week. I think that's probably a better way, and it makes sense for you guys to hear that. These guys should all be on the practice field.
And then there's obviously a lot of focus this year on second and third quarterbacks, and whether you were to keep one on the 53 for the third quarterback. Chose not to do that. I know it sounds like Chris is coming back for sure. I haven't heard about Shane yet. How did that evaluation come down as far as the decision to only go with 2 on the 53?
Yeah, that was a tough one. And we've gone in different directions in different years. And, sometimes when you just try to keep some young guys too, it's difficult. And you do try to project some guys that you can get in the practice squad. And, keeping 6 linebackers was something that is a little bit of an oddity too, in some regards. But when you have these young guys that, are likely to be gone, and you want to see that through, I think sometimes you have to make tough decisions. Obviously, Shane is a good football player, and, we love having him around. Certainly going to miss him. And it was just one of those things where at the end of the day, we always say this to all the guys, at the end of the day, like, make our jobs easy and put it on tape. And that's where Blaine came out and won the job. And, so it doesn't make it any easier, because I think there was a lot of